In the lead up to yesterday's parliamentary elections in Britain, most observers and analysts of that forthcoming election believed that Labour and the Conservative Party were running neck and neck, and they expected going into the day's counts that we would not know who actually would end up leading the government in the UK, that it could take days or possibly even weeks for recounts and the sort of the backstage machinations to put together a governing coalition. They were wrong. They were very, very wrong. In fact, it was a bit of a bloodbath in Buckingham. I know that they don't actually sit there. But yes, it was actually a bloodbath, with Labour getting destroyed both in contests against the Conservative Party and also the Scottish National Party. We're going to give you all those details. It can be very well summed up by what it looks like will be the continuing Prime Minister, who said this is clearly a very strong night for the Conservative Party.
God,
it's a very
British
way to say
accent.
it. Oh,
It's too short for you to say it in a British accent.
Okay, this is clearly a very strong night for the Conservative Party.
Okay, that was terrible.
That was all hideous.
That was
I
Unacceptable.
do declare.
I mean, for the love of God, why do you not say I do declare before it?
I do declare it's been a brilliant night for the Conservative Party.
Better.
So here's some numbers for you. With 643 constituencies counted, the Conservatives had 326 seats to Labour's 230. So look,
There are only 650 seats, so 326 is exactly what you need to have outright majority.
Exactly, yes. And so it's like a fairly razor-thin, I mean, he has the ability to rule without needing a coalition, which is of course significant and differentiates it from the last 5 years, 4.5 years, which will be significant, but in the analyses that I've been reading, in the same sort of situation back in like the 90s under Major, if the populace is angry, and it looks like in the next few years there are going to be a lot of reasons for them to be angry, that they could, in the next election, lose that just as quickly as they gained it.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, it's still 326 to 324. Like, that's the 326 people voted for them, 324 did not. And they don't have the allies. He doesn't need anybody to form a government, but the number of natural allies diminished.
yes.
So in that sense, yes, they could obviously lose in the next election, but they didn't lose last night.
They didn't, no.
Okay, so I want to jump in with one of my favorite things about British politics, which is how apologetic the defeated parties are.
Yeah, that's great.
So Ed Miliband, who was leading Labour, I'm paraphrasing here, I have greatly disgraced everyone I know.
They resign in shame.
Yeah, I will now retire into a cave in Kandahar because that is where I clearly belong.
I'm truly sorry I did not succeed.
Yeah.
Like, and
I respect
quit.
that. I think that's what you should say. Resign,
and he's like, I'm outie. I'm outie 5,000. I'm gone.
Yeah.
And then he ended by saying, I have dishonored my family.
Yeah. Here, if you lose a presidential election, you just hang around for decades, just popping up. Mitt Romney's still trying to get in the news.
Wait 4 years, you run again.
Yeah, he could possibly. That's entirely possible. Now, going into the next few years, there's going to be a couple of very large issues that they're going to have to tackle in the UK, the possible referendum on continuing membership to the EU, the possible future independence referendums in Scotland. Now, we have a quote, again, from the Prime Minister that sort of gets to that idea. He says, I want my party and I hope a government that I would like to lead to reclaim a mantle that we should never have lost, the mantle of one nation, one united kingdom.
Yeah, it's not happening because look what happened. The most interesting thing to come out of this vote, I think, was overwhelmingly what happened in Scotland. 59 MPs in Parliament in Scotland.
They took 56 out of 59, I believe.
I thought they won all but one. But whatever it is, doesn't matter. 56, 57, 58, whatever it is. Labour got one or two seats in Scotland, and all of those Scottish seats were independence votes. So that would indicate that Scotland is not ready to do what I think what David Cameron's going to try and do is be like, well, we're going to give you some more autonomy. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
And he is saying that he is going to do that.
The guy who led the independence movement was Alex Salmond, and he said, the Scottish lion has roared this morning across the country.
Yeah. That wasn't bad.
And then he thrust a claymore into the air. By the way, this is both shallow, and I assume everyone in Scotland and the UK largely has already had their last laugh about this years ago. But how amazing is it that the current Scottish National Party leader is Nicola Sturgeon, and the outgoing one, the former one, Alex Salmond. Come on, that's funny.
So now look, let's not. I want to emphasize two things. One is, I think people are overblowing the SNP thing. I mean, like, the Scottish independence movement is real, super important. That part is not overblown, right? but they are more liberal than the Labour Party. So in terms of how you build coalitions, Labour is devastated. Yeah, I guess that's bad for their ego, but the party that rises in their stead in Scotland is more liberal than they are.
Certainly more of a threat to the Conservatives.
Yes, and so, and if Labour had won the rest of the seats that they were supposed to, it was supposed to be a very, very close race, well, then they obviously form a coalition with the SNP and everybody's hunky-dory. And they would have to make more concessions to Scotland, God bless, and it all makes sense.
But Labour is more willing to make those concessions.
Of course, right. Now, so when Cameron's party wins, well, then we've got and they won the outright majority. So it's not just they're over-focusing on Labour losing Scotland. The real problem was Labour lost the rest of the seats that they were supposed to win.
I think they're both interesting and important issues. But.
Yeah, no, I hear you. They're important for different reasons, but in terms of liberal versus conservative, left versus right, what's determinative is the seats that Labour lost otherwise, right? Yeah. And so, look, a lot of things got devastated. So Ed Miliband's out, of course, and then Nigel. Sorry, guys, we don't live in the UK. Farage. Okay.
Farage?
Farage?
I'm not sure.
Sorry, guys. Okay. He resigned, of course, as always, in disgrace after losing his race. I like that he resigned after losing his race. No, he lost his race. He just lost. You have to go home when you lose. Anyway, his party only won one seat. So, but the bottom line is, well, okay, the Conservatives have won in the UK, and that is not really that good of news for the rest of the world.
Yeah, I've noticed on Twitter, we apparently have a lot of viewers in the UK, and so my Twitter feed has just been blown up with people who feel lied to, like they've been manipulated by Murdoch possibly. They feel like the media wasn't accurately doing their polling and everything. And so we look at the potential policies coming out of the Conservative Party and we say, well, that doesn't actually sound that bad, from our context. But for them, I mean, this could lead to a couple of harsh years for them.
Look, it's bad for them. The Conservatives in the UK are nowhere near as conservative as the Conservatives in America, but they're still Conservatives.
Yes.
And so the analysts say it's because UK like the financial stability that Cameron's party brought them, yada, yada, right? But for the rest of the world, what's really important is war, right? In foreign policy, obviously Cameron is more hawkish, and so he's going to push in that direction. Now, U.S. still leads that, posse, and then we have a much bigger say in it, but the UK is relevant, and if the more conservative party is pushing towards, I mean, let's take action, whatever that action might happen to be, Iran or otherwise, that's not good news for the world.
Yeah, and also, I mean, just domestically, the number I've seen thrown around is $49 billion in cuts to social programs that are expected with, they believe, security, like a secure zone carved out around the National Health Service. But that's a lot of dollars that are going to be taken away from those programs. And as I said early on, I mean, the possibility that in 2017, with that referendum on continued membership to the EU, that's significant. And leading up to it, they're going to be trying to carve out some extra concessions for them in terms of the partnership. But that's super significant. I mean, that could conceivably be one of the biggest changes to the EU in at least my lifetime.
It could be, and that's a long way away, and we don't have.
It's a long way away, yes.
But bear in mind that for all these changes, the party that was already in power is still in power by a fairly thin majority. So it's not like there has not been a shaking to the bones in the UK. All there has been was a more decisive victory than they had, but because the victory that was predicted wasn't even remotely decisive.
So this is what Ben is saying, is this is no Alberta. So in Alberta, we had an amazing victory where, again, to simplify things, the more liberal party came in and won a stunning upset over the Conservative Party, which had won 12 elections in a row, right? And they came in and routed them. And so that was like the Bernie Sanders winning in Texas, right? So that level of surprise. This is not nearly as much of a surprise. It's just surprise because of the polling, and it's surprising because of the depth of the victory.